same thing. When you look at the eyeball right there, it says the 2 streams only. Doesn't have. Nope, it's on now.
We're on.
We're on. Finally,
third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm, boys. We're persistent to be on here with y'all tonight, Wednesday night. Glad to be with you all. UFC 302 coming up this weekend. Champions League final, Real Madrid versus Dortmund. Ben, Roland, which event are you looking more forward to watching this Saturday?
Man, it's definitely got to be UFC 302. I know the main event, it's a very lopsided line in terms of the Vegas betting lines. You got Dustin Poirier at about, minus 600. I mean, plus 600, or Makhachev is minus 600, excuse me. But definitely more excited for UFC 302. Got a couple good fights on the card. And the Champions League final, while I do like the story, Dortmund, the unlikely Bundesliga challenger, going up against Real Madrid, who's made a habit of being here in this game. So even that said, still looking forward to UFC 302.
Ben, what about you? Is it going to be Dortmund and Real Madrid, or are you more excited about 302?
I'll definitely be tuned into both for sure, but more excited about the fights. Always the fights. It's UFC fights just about over everything. It's up there with football for me. I love watching fights. Love Saturdays, love fight days, especially for the pay-per-views. Going to have people over this Saturday, so really looking forward to the fights.
Same. As a Real Madrid fan, I got to go with Real Madrid just because I don't got any dogs in the race here with UFC this weekend. So I'm on the opposite end of you guys. But nonetheless, let's get into it, boys. Let's start talking some UFC. Let me pull up the slides here that we got for today, and it's UFC 302, Makhachev versus Porier. This is the first time that they have fought each other. We have seen Porier in title fights in the past, and we have seen him against, Makhachev's coach. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. But let's open up with the first fight here, and it's Gelton Almeida, minus 290 versus Alexander Romanov. Roland, I'm going to go into Alexander Romanov's last 5. We're going to take a look at his last 5 fights, and then we'll break down the fight from there. His last 5 fights, he's 3-2. He's got a win versus Blagoy Ivanovic, and he's got a loss to Alexander Volkov, not the best loss to have, and Tarbura, not the best loss to have. Wins over Chase Sherman, who's no longer in the UFC, and Jared Vanderweer. Just looking at his work, his form, what do you make of Alexander King Kong Romanov?
I can't say that I've seen him fight too much, but just looking at the 5 names on there, just strictly, surface level, it's not the worst 5, right? There's some namesake there in terms of Alexander Volkov, Tarbura, Sherman. Those are all guys that we've come to know in this division. Has fared pretty well, 3-2, not too shabby. But I'll definitely, is that 3-2? Yeah, 3-2. But I'll toss it to Ben and see if he knows a little bit more about Romanov.
Yeah, he's not very exciting to watch, Roland, I'll be honest with you. And although you do see some, names that Chase Sherman, you do know his name, but not a very good fighter. At least he did finish him. So he doesn't seem to play with his food when he has a guy outnumbered. Unfortunately, for Almeida, his big hype train was stopped by Curtis Blades. Their last time out, that was kind of a loser leaves town. We saw Almeida actually get worked on the ground. We saw him in some pretty deep waters. I don't think that he faces the same type of matchup here. I do think that it is going to take place, with grappling. Both guys grapplers. But, King Kong, maybe, in the local circuit, I don't see it really happening, in the UFC. Don't see him gutting out a win against a guy like Almeida, who's still, a loss to Curtis Blades. It's a decent loss. You know what I mean? Curtis Blades is a guy who's
he's going to be fighting for the title.
And he was doing good in that fight, kind of. I know you said he was in deep waters, but I feel like Almeida, he kind of showed his, I guess, his lack of experience, versus a guy like Curtis Blades. He was spamming the takedowns. He was really just shooting and grasping at straws there towards the end.
Ultimately, he looked a little gas too.
Yeah, exactly. And so that led to, his finish. It was kind of an awkward finish for Blades. He was kind of just there hammer fisting him.
The back of the head, too.
As Almeida was shooting for a takedown. But the only thing I was going to say on this one is Almeida definitely what you can consider as a specialist in the UFC. Definitely a guy that's going to work you on the ground and wants to take the fight there. And I think he has a guy that I think he should, have his way with. in terms of getting it where he wants.
I will say if the fight stays standing up, if what is it, Ivanov or what's this dude's name, Justin?
Romanov.
All sound the same. Romanov. If he's able to keep it standing and make it a striking battle, it may be close because, like Roland alluded to, Almeida kind of known as a specialist now. We saw him look pretty shaky against Curtis Blades on the feet. And he's a guy that likes the fight to be on the ground. So if it's able to be standing, it could be anybody's fight. But I do think he's rightfully favored, even after losing that fight to Curtis Blades the way that he did. I think this is where he kind of gets back on track, probably a parlay piece.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. Are you willing to put your hard-earned money on Almeida and trust him in this spot as a minus 290 favorite?
I mean, he's definitely the physically just more gifted athlete in this fight. I just saw Justin had the ages up there. They're pretty close in age, I think just 1 year apart. But just, physically gifted, quickness, and we do think that he's better. I do think that Almeida should beat this guy. So
yeah,
I like Almeida. I think that, if he loses this fight, forget about being a top prospect. I mean, he's just, any other heavyweight now, because with the heavyweights, it's kind of those guys that are worthy enough to be title contenders. And then it's the Romanovs. And I don't think that he is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so this fight, Almeida, they're just giving him a guy to get him back on track. If you look at his last 5, he's beat Derek Lewis, he's beat Rosenstrike, so he was, on that trend to, getting better fights. He fights Curtis Blades. The first round, he's controlling a lot of the fight. He's spamming the takedowns, he's getting them. Curtis Blades finally lands a few shots to the back of the head, and that kind of stops Almeida at that point. I think Almeida's going to get back on track. I think he is the real deal. He shows that he can strike because you know what? He has the grappling in the back of his pocket. So I think he's the all-around package. I just think he had a hiccup, but I think he gets back on track Saturday with a win over King Kong Romanov.
Yeah, and just looking at that tail of the tape, got a pretty good reach advantage too. They're at a 79, so.
Let's take a look at it. You got 6'3 versus 6'2, 32 versus 33, 4-inch reach, 79 and 75. And he'll be coming in much bigger, much leaner with muscle than Romanov will be. So, like Ben said, way more of an athletic specimen here with Jailton Almeida.
Load it up, parlay piece, load it up.
I think so. Let's move over to Kevin Holland. And anybody who can pronounce this name correctly will win $5 because I can't. Alexei Juszczyk. That's probably as best as I can get it. Kevin Holland minus 285. Let's get into the last 5 for Alexei, or for Husser Alexei. And it's lost to Michelle Pereira, win against Chidi Njoku, lost to Chao Borayo, win against Cody Broderick, and win against Sam Alvey. Ben, you're looking at these names, and I can tell, not impressive, right? Sam Alvey, that doesn't hold much weight in UFC. Cody Brundage, somewhat of a decent name, but still just not enough.
I mean, you do like the fact that he finished those guys. He got him out of there. This guy he puts on pretty good fights. I know against Chitty, I believe that we were on Chitty. I know I had Chitty beating him. He ended up KOing him. This is a guy that hangs around, bro. He is tough. This is a guy in Kevin Holland who definitely will be the more athletic guy, but he's a person that plays with his food a lot, and you don't know what type of Kevin Holland's going to show up. True. He'll put himself in scenarios and in positions to where he's going to be pretty vulnerable. And if you go to what was the line? I don't know if that was the first slide.
Minus 285 for Kevin Holland.
But Kevin Holland at close to 3-1. I mean, is that really where you want to back Kevin Holland? Usually you want to back Kevin Holland as an underdog. You don't know what you're going to get as a favorite, especially a 3-1 favorite. With him, like we said, I mean, he should win this fight. It should be a stand-up battle. Somebody should go out. But I would probably say more of an unders instead of, trusting Kevin Holland in this fight. Yes, he should win, but, man, that's just – those odds are crazy for a guy like him that, we say that his IQ always isn't there. You look at his last 5 fights, 3 of those 5 are losses, although they are a pretty good competition.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But this other dude is tough. So, honestly, I'd go under or dog here. I'm just not willing to trust Kevin Holland as a big favorite like that.
Roland, what about you? What are your
Yeah.
feelings on Kevin Holland? Like Ben said, decent names here. Michael Page, he's up there now. Jack
For
Della
sure.
Maddalena, we know what his body of work's been. And that war with Stephen Thompson that he gave us, that goes to what Ben was saying, that fight IQ. But he got to win over Michael Chiesa and Santiago Ponzinibbio. So, Roland, what do you make of his last five?
Man, it's real tough. And, I was having this debate breaking down this fight. The other guy's name, Ochukchek, or I'm not going to try and pronounce it. But, their last, particularly both guys' last fights, right? You go and you rewatch the tape or, the lack thereof on that Porier fight, because he got steamrolled in the first round, took a couple big shots and was choked out, game over, right? So you don't know if you can take that fight and, use it to break down this upcoming fight, or if you just got to throw it out completely. And kind of same thing for Kevin Holland, because he just completely got outclassed by Michael Venom Page. He was second to the party every single time they exchanged. It seemed like Michael Venom Page had the jump on him. So it's kind of difficult. And like what Ben said, when you're talking about Kevin Holland as a close to 3-1 favorite and backing him there, it's one of two things. One, he's either clearly the superior striker, and that's where the fight's going to take place, and Vegas recognizes that, or, something's amiss here, right? The guy looks so bad against Pereira. You think Holland should clearly, wipe this guy, and that's why the line is the way that it is. I tend to go with Kevin Holland because I do believe that this fight is going to take place standing. I think Holland is clearly the better guy in this situation. But like what Ben said, you really can't trust Kevin Holland because you don't know what you're going to get. What if he goes out and he starts trying to spam takedowns, or he's trying to be a counter striker? And, that I know sometimes that works to his advantage because he's that good at striking. But, we've seen him get into some trouble when he's playing, like what Ben said. So I like Kevin Holland, probably won't bet it. But should be an exciting fight nonetheless.
Yeah,
I don't think it's worth betting on a single, not parlay piece, just taking him,
Yeah, maybe
some sort
just
of way decision.
just to have something on the fight.
I wouldn't, like the way I said Almeida, parlay piece based off where he was. I think his line was even a little bit lower than Kevin Holland's, if I'm not mistaken. But Holland, I wouldn't trust, bro. And he might come out and just starch this guy. But dude, that guy plays too much, bro.
So what do you think, Justin and Ben, about Holland, overall from this point? Is this a fight for him to, kind of get back on track, or has that kind of, has that ship sailed?
I think that if you look at the way that, his opponent Olejniczak's fights Roland, shout out Roland in the comments, putting the Webster's Dictionary definition syllables.
Oh yeah, shout out Roland
there. Oleksiejczuk. He puts on good fights. I think this is one for the fans. This is on pay-per-view. You see that all his fights end in sub or TKO. This one, I don't believe is going to need the judges. This is one that's going to deliver. It's going to be a really good fight, and I think that that's what they're putting Kevin Holland in now. You see with his last matchup, although Michael Venom Page, way better, I wouldn't say prospect because of where his age is.
Yeah, for sure.
But a guy that has title aspirations, not necessarily, like his opponent this Saturday night, but it's going to be a fun fight nonetheless. This guy doesn't see the judges. His last 5 fights, none have gone to the judges, win or lose. So I think that we're in for a good fight, possibly fight of the night. Maybe somebody gets a highlight KO in this fight, performance of the night. But I think this one's going to deliver as far as a really good fight, early on the pay-per-view card to kind of set the tone.
I agree. I agree with your statement of probably not seeing the judges. Even if you look at Hollins, he's getting subs, he's getting knockouts. The last time that he lost, he retired in a fight because he got beat up so bad. Is he, somewhat the Michael Chandler of the middleweight division, where you just, loading him up for exciting fights at this point and not really, title aspirations? It's more of just making it a show.
That's why I asked the question that I asked, kind of as far as his career, like, is he, trying to climb the ladder, or is he more of, like what Justin said, a guy that you can plug in on a pay-per-view and you're going to have an exciting fight? There are those guys, what's the Brazilian's name? I felt like for the longest time you can just plug him in, a Cowboy.
Barbosa?
The other one, Cowboy, yeah, you can just plug that guy in, and you're gonna have an exciting fight on a random pay-per-view card, whether it's filling in or something like that. Because Holland is just proven to be game, and I think he's trying to capitalize on his opportunity right now in terms of hitting that bankroll.
I think so. I think what he is of his weight class, not necessarily as in the exact same fight style, but where they are in their careers and what they bring and how they help the UFC. I think he's kind of in like Derek Lewis's position in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, okay.
Where that they're not going to be champions, guys that you can get behind, because usually on fight week they're really good on the mic. They take advantage of that, but also in fights when they lose, like they look really bad, right? When we see them fight really big competition, that's when Derek Lewis loses.
When he shrinks, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's where he's at. If I had to compare it to somebody else's career in the UFC, I'd say he's kind of with Derek Lewis, probably getting paid really well because Dana knows exactly what he's going to give him every time that he's in there.
For sure.
But this is not a guy that has any type of title aspirations anymore.
He's still a headliner for a fight night, right? Like he's still that level.
He's done it. Yeah, he's been a headliner.
But we're saying he's still there.
Yeah.
Not so much going forward. I don't know. I don't know, but he definitely could with the right opponent. But it's like Derek Lewis. I don't think that his last fight was a headliner, and it was on a fight night, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, he was the.
He was a headliner at St. Louis.
At the bar. Yeah. So on a fight night for sure, especially with them trying to go live.
Yeah, and some of the cards they put out in the middle of the year are kind of crazy. So yeah, Kevin Holland can still get a fight night headliner.
Yeah, Alboy Oliveira. That's what we were talking about for sure.
All right, let's move over to the middleweight, and maybe it's somewhat of a title eliminator because you have, the last middleweight champion, Sean Strickland, going against Secret Juice himself, Paulo Costa. Sean Strickland, minus 230 favorite. I just want to start with the lines, boys. Does this seem like too steep of a line for a guy that just hides behind his jab the whole night? We saw Paulo Costa have Whitaker in somewhat of, a little bit of trouble during his fight. The guy's game. Yeah. He's not just some scrub either. Is this too much of a line at minus 230?
I'll say initially when I looked at the line, I was a little surprised. I thought it was going to be a little bit closer just because of, the reputation, kind of what we know of, Paulo Costa. He is the eraser. That's what they call him. He can put you out. But the fact of the matter is he hasn't fought a lot lately. And when he has fought recently, even though, like Justin pointed out, he did have Whitaker in trouble, that was really his only moment, that fight. If we're being honest, he threw less than 70 punches or less than 70 strikes in that fight. He hasn't thrown over 100 strikes, I think, since like 2021. A lot of that, again, that's exaggerated because he hasn't fought a lot and since from 2021 to 2024. But when you look at his opponent, Whitaker, output is the name of his game. And in a 3-round fight, I think Whitaker can, hide behind his jab, avoid taking a big shot and wrestle when he needs to, and I think Whitaker should be able to win this fight.
Strickland
should be able to win this fight. Looking at his last fight, Costa's fought, nothing but the best. But when I looked at the line, I was a little surprised, but digging into it a little bit more, I kind of agree with the Vegas lines.
What about you, Ben? Are you agreeing with the Vegas lines? Are you liking Costa's, resume here in his last 5?
What I'm not liking is the fact that you stressed his fight nickname. And I mean, the fool hasn't erased anybody, in.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That they call him that. It's his reputation for sure.
And honestly, he was the eraser at one point until he met Yoel Romero.
But at this point that we're recording right now, he is not the eraser.
No, he's not.
That's his secret juice.
He's secret juice.
We want to erase his fights from our memory, bro. That's how bad they've been. Nothing but decisions. Like, this guy is nowhere near an eraser. It's the odds. Yes, they might be a little steep, but Strickland was in a kind of debatable fight, I guess you could say. I know watching Whitaker
split decision. Yeah, you can say that.
And I know watching Whitaker versus Costa live, a lot of people kind of thought that, Costa was winning because he was landing the harder shots at times, but the guy just doesn't win, bro. He doesn't win. He doesn't win big fights. And I could see, Strickland really frustrating Costa. I could see Costa showing it in the octagon. But he's a guy that kind of like Yoel Romero, he can be hesitant to throw. So I'm not the biggest fan of Paulo Costa. I think that we should never call him that, at least never on this podcast again, because he has put up some very boring fights, Justin. Like, they've been bad, dog.
They've been bad. So they have been bad. I just comment from Pablo Costa. Strickland is a soy boy with a liberal chin, and partially the reason why I bring that up is because I think at a lot of Costa at this point is his persona and kind of what he's built himself up as, and that's why he's partially why he's still getting these headlining fight. He's relevant still, in social media and in the media cycle, if you will. And even though, like Ben said, some of his fights have been, leaving a lot to be desired in terms of, output and whatnot, and the ultimate result for him, he still leaves you with those moments, like Justin said, that heel kick against Whitaker that almost put him out. It just leaves you wanting more at this point. But I think that might be, the state that we're at with him, though. I don't know if we're going to get more. I think he's just going to leave us wanting more at this point. I don't know.
Mel Page Van Zandt.
Dang, I don't know about that far, because Paige, didn't she just lose to a porn star?
It was a draw. Yeah.
Okay, because that's a different level. You know what, boys? I actually gonna go with the dog here. I think I like Paulo Costa. We've seen Strickland be a little chinny in some of his fights. I think the way that Paulo Costa does hit, I think he's gonna find him. I think Strickland doesn't respect Costa as much, and I think he's gonna be trying to jab, and I think Costa catches him in the range. So I got to go with the dog here. I'm gonna take the shot here.
I think if Strickland wins this fight, we got to stop Costa. I mean, he's got to stop fighting, these top 5 guys, bro, because he just doesn't deliver. And honestly, I think the secret juice, like Roland said, like he's more of a social media guy now than he is known as a fighter. Like I don't know if people. I mean, I can't shit on the guy like that, but like people aren't like
a lot of it's been injury and whatnot. But I mean, when he has gotten in there, he
underperforms a lot, bro. He underperforms a lot.
I agree. I gotta still stick with this dog here. I think there's a chance, and I gotta ride it here. Plus, 180 didn't seem like bad odds for it either.
And this is the most no Diddy thing that's going to be said on this podcast, but probably like of MMA bodies, maybe he's
just
top
don't
5.
do it.
But that's the only way this guy's ever seen any top 5, bro. That's the only way.
Yeah.
Next fight.
I've been watching too much Gerard Carmichael show on HBO Max, bro.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. You got me baffled, brother. I don't even know where to go with this. But let's get into the main event, because I'm tripping now. And we got Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. Dustin's had his chances at the lightweight title in the past. He's fought Khabib, trained Islam, and Islam is coming in as a heavy favorite, minus 650. Let's take a look at Dustin's last 5. Pretty much wins. He beat Benoit Saint-Denis. He took that vicious KO against Justin Gaethje. He beat Michael Chandler in 3 rounds. Got pretty nasty in that fight.
For sure.
He loses to Charles Oliveira in a championship match, and then his last dub against Conor McGregor, doctor stoppage. Looking at these last 5 fights, Roland, what do you make of this resume? It seems like Conor McGregor fight was forever ago.
It was forever ago, and his last couple fights have just been up and down, But Dustin Poirier, I want to go and not say that this is how I'm looking at this fight, but just kind of to look back at this. He kind of said coming into this fight that he doesn't know if it's going to be his last fight, win or loss. I'm saying that to say that he's kind of been in and out, right? He's been taking these big money fights. Like, yes, he's a guy that always stays in shape, but he's also a guy that likes to spend time with his family. So he's a guy that's coming in, probably hits a training camp and then, gets the fight, goes back home, does his day-to-day at this point, because he's already made that bread. He already had that red panty night, with Conor McGregor a couple times over now.
2 times, yeah.
2 times, exactly. So, he's paid in full. Dustin Poirier, though, his last 2 fights, like Justin said, dropped like a sack of potatoes against Justin Gaethje, one of the more vicious knockouts. But then I think this personifies Dustin Poirier's career is he comes back against all odds, finds himself as a pretty, steep underdog against an up-and-coming killer.
Staph-infected killer.
And BSD, and he puts him out. Say what you want about BSD going into the fight, maybe being potentially dehydrated because he was dealing with the staph infection like Justin was alluding to. But nonetheless, Dustin Poirier went in there, lights out, and he's seizing on the opportunity because kind of with the way scheduling is working right now, and some of the other top guys in this division leaves the champion open for him to go and fight Makhachev. And I think Poirier, he can play with house money here because like what I said with the comment, I don't think it's a matter of him not really putting his all into this fight camp and his head not being there and him taking it for the money, like we've talked about with some other guys in the past and some of their questionable, fight taking decisions, with the Usmans and the Volkanovskis of the world. But Poirier all in, playing with house money, and this is his chance to, another chance to recognize gold.
Man, let's look over at Islam's last 5. You see all green. Now, we did talk about the staph, and now the rumor on Twitter is Islam's coming in with a staph infection. You've seen the leg. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make more of. Dustin being undefeated in the month of June in his whole career.
There you go.
Or Islam being a filthy animal and having staph. I know I shared Connor's tweets. You probably had already seen them, Justin, but I read them out loud. But Conor McGregor had some words for Islam on Twitter, about the staph infection and whatnot. Pretty funny. But no, in this one, I mean, bro, Dustin, house money for sure, and I think that's why he might just take the easy way out. Listen, Justin wears the war hat, right?
Yeah.
And for sure, we all agree that he is a fucking warrior.
For sure.
But I also don't see him as the guy that goes to sleep instead of tapping.
Oh, you think he'll tap?
Oh, yeah, and he will tap. He'll tap. He'll probably tap pretty early if he's dumb enough. I know, Roland says Dustin by Gilly, and it's kind of the running joke because of the guillotines that he was shooting against St. Denis. He was in trouble. His last fight. The dude ran out of gas. Islam's, I don't think, is going to run out of gas. Man, as much as I would like to see this dude lose because I just don't like the fight style of these guys, like,
that
this
inbred
is not
style.
the matchup, bro. So, this is not the matchup.
Yeah, it's a terrible matchup. It's the classic striker versus guy who's just going to ground and pound you, sub you out, control the fight that way. But I guess I just want to ask a question, playing a little devil's advocate, Ben or Justin, feel free to take this question. But do you guys put anything in the fact that Islam Makhachev, his last 2 fights were against Alexander Volkanovski? He really hasn't fought a lightweight, a guy his size. Do you put any stock in that? And probably not, because you just said, Dustin Poirier is probably not the guy to test that. But what do you think about that?
Dustin's not the biggest lightweight either. Remember, he was a featherweight going into lightweight. Now, he has converted. He's a full lightweight size body, but that's not going to be the issue. I am actually, like, I joke about it, but I am concerned about the staph infection. When you're on antibiotics, it's not easy. You get dehydrated. Your energy drains a lot faster. And I think that could be a difference if he really does have staph. Judging by the photos, it looks like it to me that he does have it. So I am concerned that if it gets into round 3, 4, and 5, Dustin becomes really live as a dog here.
What resolution did you look at the photos of the staph in?
I was in like 4K, 1080, nonstop, just quality 4K photo.
Nonstop quality, baby. You gotta love it.
Yeah. And he's wearing a leg sleeve in training videos.
Hey, so as cool as Dustin Poirier's Fight Week shirts are, what do y'all? His hot sauce? Do you think that kind of became a thing? Obviously, we saw McGregor with the liquor, right? But the Dustin hot sauce, do you think that he's? Do you think that that's like a business venture? Do you think that that's something after fighting, or do you think that that's maybe something kind of just local in his Louisiana area that's just
I've never seen it in the stores
of his outside ventures of with the hot sauce and all that?
I've never seen it in the stores here locally. I think you can only get it online, so I can't attest to that, what his sales are like. Yeah. But if it's not in, brick and mortar, you can only assume so much at some points.
You can get it on Amazon.
Okay. Online.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, man, I don't know.
Probably locally it's in stores, but
yeah, maybe
really
locally.
Pushed it, bro. Like he did a Hot Ones episode, and Hot Ones has become a pretty big, platform.
It's mainstream.
Yeah, it's pretty mainstream, exactly.
It shows us here you can get it at Walmart.
So, is it like every Walmart? Because it's not here local.
Well, Justin, we're HEB guys on here, and you better not say otherwise. We're just an HEB
Yeah,
podcast, and we just don't go to Walmart, unless we
Well,
need
I
free
go
air
to
in
the
our
Walmart
tires.
market in Bryan because it's nice.
Yeah, maybe it's in Walmart's, but honestly, I don't shop at Walmart's. But I was just thinking about that the other day with Dustin Poirier because he was really pushing the hot sauce, got a pretty big press run from it. But I mean, obviously, a liquor is going to make a lot more money, and then it's Conor
Yeah.
McGregor. But just life after fighting for Poirier, I wonder if that obviously that's something that he wants to fall back on.
for sure. And I think live after fight, I think he's set up pretty well. I mean, he got some pretty nice paydays in there towards the end, especially those Conor McGregors.
And another title fight payday. So I mean,
yeah, pay-per-view points here.
I think that he might also not be like on a show and win type of structure, right? I think that Dustin Poirier, obviously a Hall of Famer of the UFC at this point, right before retiring, he's probably on just a flat fee whenever he fights. I think that he's at that point, in his career. I don't think that he's still one of those, even though it may be, 500 and 500. I do think that Poirier is one of those guys that just, gets his fee when he fights.
So if he were to win somehow, some way,
gotta walk away.
No way.
No.
Absolutely.
No, that makes no sense.
Well, I think it kind of does make sense. Like if he's just already talking about being in and out,
it's beat the unbeatable.
It's a perfect walk off. Yeah, it's a perfect walk off for sure into the sunset.
No way.
What I was gonna ask is, do you guys see it happening? Like, would he have to clip him early? Clip him early, take him out, or last the because I don't see him lasting 4 or 5 rounds with Islam.
If Islam's healthy, yeah, he's not lasting 4 or 5.
The fact that we don't see him lasting, that's when he would have to do it is in the later rounds. After, we don't see him lasting and maybe Islam's vulnerable. He looked a little vulnerable the first fight against Volk. Obviously got it together in the second fight, right? Knocking his ass out. But
for sure.
Honestly, bro, Islam's probably going to finish him, but Dustin's best shot, obviously early, right? Catching somebody, clipping him early, but also late. If he is able to, grapple with Islam and survive, every round does start standing up. And, with Islam, maybe he's a little more tired in the later rounds, 4th, 5th rounds, championship rounds. Dustin's a guy that's been in 5-round fights, so I think it's either very, very early or 4th or 5th round, but I think Islam finishes it, bro, before it even gets into the championship rounds. It's just a bad matchup.
Now, Khabib said that, they were planning something very special for Dustin, and the only thing that I can think of is they like Islam striking against him. Do you think we see this standing for a majority of the fight? If, Islam, he has shown some improvement. We saw the knockout against Volkanovski. We've seen his hands get better. He dropped Oliveira. Can we see him, say, I can strike with this guy. My level's up. Can we see that at all Saturday night?
I think they feel each other out. I mean, it's definitely going to start that way. Feel each other out. I mean, we even saw Khabib drop Conor, based on the fight, standing up, feeling each other out.
Yeah.
So, but if it's not working, I mean, it's going to be a quick, especially with Khabib in his corner. I know that Khabib wasn't in his corner his last fight. So that's pretty big news, but those guys stick to the plan, bro. Yes, maybe you go out there, test it out, try and find your range at least. You know what I mean? But you follow Father's plan, and we all know that Father's plan is usually take him down, ground and pound, choke him out, whatever it may be. So he might try it out, Justin, but that's no chance that's where the majority of the fight takes place.
All right, so we're all on Islam here, right? Everyone thinks Islam's going to win.
Yeah, and his hands are surprisingly quick. Once he lets him go a little bit, he can catch you. But I don't think he'll want to stand in the pocket with Dustin consistently.
Just take him down and rub the staff all over him, bro.
He's probably going to come out with a leg sleeve.
He probably is. Like Rockhold.
Leg sleeve. Yeah, like Rockhold did, exactly.
Hopefully they make him take
all staffed up.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see. And the other thing, Ben, though, if Dustin does win, you don't retire. You can't retire. Justin. No way. You don't think it's his dream to be champion and defend it at least one time? It's not his dream just to have the championship. You got to defend.
If they're going to make you defend against Islam,
they're not going to make him do Islam right away.
If they make him, but if they don't book Holloway and he wins and he says, okay, Holloway, I'll give you a shot at 155 and they run that one back, fine, defend it against Holloway. But bro, if he beats Islam, it's gonna be that, when they say, oh, these guys could fight 100 times. This guy might win 93 times. This guy might win 7. Like, this is one of those type of scenarios. And
it's 99-1 for sure.
99-1, yeah, whatever it may be. If he follows father's plan, that's the main key, right?
I mean, the odds show it's that heavy, minus 650.
So you win the title, and what if you have to rematch this guy? You run it back with him? Like, why
no,
the fuck
we're not even saying that. We already denied he's not going to fight him again.
Yeah,
it won't be a rematch.
I don't think
you're going to give him a money fight right away.
Well, and then maybe he retires. With the run that Islam has had, he probably
the 2 fights are Volkanovski, because it's not a big run. He's not like on this crazy run.
Yeah, but you got to remember who his manager is. There's probably already the clause.
He can get to the back of the line for the money, because it's the UFC. They're a business. They're gonna run a money fight, and you're gonna have Holloway off a major win. You're gonna have possibly Conor coming off a major win, or you'll have Chandler off a major win. Easy winnable fights for Dustin, and they're money fights. I don't think we're going to see Islam as the automatic rematch.
Well, he definitely does.
I mean, we've seen other fighters who've lost their belt and didn't get the automatic rematch with a better resume than Islam's had.
Big what if that we're talking about. I think big what if that we're talking about.
Super big what if, but we got to cover all bases. We're a podcast.
Yeah, for either way, I think Dustin is set up for some pretty good money fights after this. Either way, right? I mean, he's already shot down.
Not with the loss. He's not set up with a loss. He's not set up for a big money fight.
With the loss, I still think he is, because I still think he's got the Conor fight if he wants to go back to it. There's a couple other guys he could run it with, but I think he's out either way. I think Dustin Poirier's kind of hit,
he's had one foot in, 1 foot out.
The end of the road, and we were expecting this with the Benoit Saint Denis fight. I didn't pick him to win that fight. I was watching that fight stunned when Poirier won. I ended up rooting for him because I liked him. I was happy to see him win, but he kind of saved his career there. Not saying that he's a terrible fighter, but he was kind of staring his fighting mortality, kind of right in the face there with that fight. And he, struck back and won. So, and he's facing it again. The only reason why I kind of say that he's still set up is because no one's expecting him at all to go and win this fight. Like he is playing with house money, like win or lose. Like, are you really going to hold it against Dustin Poirier for not showing up or for not winning against Islam? Probably not, because that's what we expect.
But win and retire, because at that point it's already paid in full. You have nothing to prove. Now you got the belt. Just walk away, dude. Like it would just be, that would be like Peyton Manning winning with the Broncos and just saying, see you later and dipping. Like, why do you come back? As hard as it was, the timing of it all. This is obviously his last title shot. What's the point of fighting after this? If you're not chasing the belt.
I like the storybook ending. I like the walk-off home run story. Just walk it off, take out Islam, David versus Goliath situation. Again, big if, right? I don't know what the current odds are. Justin he's plus 470 right now. That's pretty steep right there. So, a good bang for your buck if you're betting on Poirier.
And the only way, maybe because it would be as big a payday as McGregor, maybe if not bigger, depending on where they fight. But like maybe you win and Khabib's in this corner, so you call out Khabib, right? And whatever.
That's a big payday, actually. It is.
That could be the final one.
Who needs a big payday?
They're saying Khabib does. Yeah.
Khabib needs a big payday. That would make sense.
Khabib needs a big payday, bro.
You haven't kept up with Khabib in Russia?
They're saying that he owes a lot of taxes.
He's like super in debt to the Russian government. It's bad.
He owns like half of Russia, bro.
Nah, he doesn't even own the mountain he's living on right now.
Once you fight and it's all wiped away.
Which is weird because I remember reading that he was gifted a lot of land. Well, I guess he was that had a little, there's some strings attached to those gifts, I guess.
He's back for the 10% coach of being in Islam's corner.
So Putin showed up on his horse and I was like, yo, it's time to pay.
I mean, look what happened. His whole MMA went downhill. His gym went downhill. Like it happened fast against Eagle FC. Like so it was overnight.
This has not been in the mainstream media. I guess this has been happening behind the scenes, but we have seen some veteran UFC fighters, kind of Kevin Lee, guys like that, go and fight for Eagle FC, and all of a sudden it went away. And
overnight,
I think his mistake was trying not to partner with the UFC, and he's like, no, I don't want anything to do with the UFC. I think we've seen. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but doesn't George Masvidal, doesn't he get some rub from the
Yeah,
UFC?
they even host his fights through the UFC's network or UFC Fight Pass.
Yeah, so
I
exactly.
thought Eagle FC was on Fight Pass as well. It wasn't.
No,
They have their own app.
I remember Eagle FC or Khabib making a big deal about not wanting anything to do with the UFC in this venture. And, he's kind of out on his own. Like, so you got to wonder how much or how long is he able to keep that running, or like, where's he getting his money from, kind of a deal.
Roland was talking about here, Kevin Lee's working at farmers market selling food. Kevin Lee opened his own kitchen and he's selling like braised like oxtail and stuff like that. So I don't know, if he's done in the UFC. He relocated out of Vegas. Now he's in Florida as well. So it might be a wrap for Kevin Lee in his return to the UFC as well.
Yeah, man. Some of these UFC fighters that have fought, and I mean, obviously in the early days, but even the guys that have fought in like let's call it like 08 to, even like today, like you got guys like Michael Johnson. I was listening to a podcast. They were talking about, he made some comments during his last fight that he didn't have enough money to pay his rent. Another fighter.
What? Dude, he's fought in the UFC forever and he can't pay rent.
Well, I mean,
that's crazy.
He's got to wonder about the pay that these guys get.
Well,
right?
but
he beat Dustin Poirier too.
The way that people spend their money, also. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, for sure. A lot goes into it.
And I'm not trying to side with Dana. For sure, they're underpaid.
Yeah,
but you should, if you're a UFC fighter, you should probably have, and like Michael Johnson, where your whole damn career has nearly been in the UFC, you should have the money to pay rent, bro.
For sure. I'm just bringing it up as like an example of like Kevin Lee, working at a farmer's market. You got to wonder where the pay was. He had a pretty big fight. He fought for a title.
They said
he fought Ferguson for the title.
Yeah, he fought Ferguson for an interim title.
But he's not working at farmers market. They said he like made his own business.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe
it's at a farmers market. Like it's actually like a flea market deal, like a swap meet.
Maybe I'm reading too much into the comment, and he's not. I'm just maybe he's good. Yeah, maybe he's good.
Ben, you're funny, man. Yeah, man. So.
Well, we're just seeing it from two complete different ends. But if he did have to relocate out of Vegas, which is pretty expensive, down to Florida with all the cuckoos and lunatics, then yeah, he probably isn't doing the best financially. Y'all are right.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, let's end it here with UFC. Let's just make the picks real quick again. We all got Islam winning. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone here is on Strickland, but me. I'm on Costa.
Yeah, I'm on Strickland.
All right, everybody on Holland or Alex Suchik?
Yeah, I'm on Holland.
I'm going to go with Alex Suchik.
I'm going Holland here with Roland and Jelton Almeida and Alexander Romanov. Who do we got?
Almeida.
Yeah, Almeida.
All right.
I do think that Pereira's fighting on the card, or am I mistaken or no?
No, I think that was
Michelle.
No, he's not fighting on this card. It's the next card I believe he fights on.
Okay.
Here's the rest of the prelims: Almeida versus Kopylov. That's going to be a good one. And you got Nico Price versus Alex Morono. That should be fun as well.
Nico Price also a guy that retired, so obviously, we're talking about how these guys are set up for after fighting. Shit, if Draymond Green saying NBA players and their millions are not set up to be well off after the NBA, you can imagine how UFC fighters, if you don't have your own gym or you're not coaching, you're probably not doing too well for yourself after fighting. Going back to that point, Mickey Gall on the card as well. Mickey Gall kind of has taken steps in the right direction. I know he was kind of, just a guy known for beating CM Punk when he came in. He lost a couple of fights after that, but
he stuck to it though, man.
Yeah, he's not necessarily looked at as like a Chase Hooper anymore. Although Chase Hooper's trying to get out of that.
Hey, he's doing pretty good too.
But yeah.
All right. Well, boys, you know what? I just want to touch on it while we're live. I know we probably won't have a chance the rest of the week to do it. So if you have some time, I want to talk a little bit of the NBA last night, if you have the time.
Yeah, I got a couple minutes.
Yeah. Hey, Randy Brown is not fighting on this card either? I thought he was fighting on this card.
You know what? I think Rude Boy is fighting as the curtain jerker of the main card.
There you go.
I think he's on here. But yeah, we saw last night, the sweep, it wasn't there. The Mavs ended up losing. Roland, you mentioned how a lot of these games within 10 points in the finishes, and it really could gone 2-2. It could be 3-1. It could be the other way 3-1. What are we seeing here? Do you think we're going to see a gentleman sweep, or do we see 6-7 games for the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Man, it's tough to say, honestly. I want to say we see 6 games. I don't think the Mavs are going to let it get all the way there, but I do think there is something to what you just said, that every game has almost been a coin flip, and the Mavs have, kind of taken control down the stretch, and they've just proven to have, the finishers in Kyrie and Luka versus, the Timberwolves, where, their main guy, Anthony Edwards, no disrespect to him, but for the most part, kind of looks gassed at times in the fourth quarter, settling for a lot of threes, a lot of pull-ups, not really attacking. Whereas, you kind of go back to some of the third quarters and you see the work that Anthony Edwards does, and, clearly, kind of gassing out there towards the end of the game. And you really can't rely on Cat. So for me, I still think the Mavs have the more reliable pieces, like the more reliable 1-2 punch in terms of Luka and Kyrie, versus, the Timberwolves still, got guys figuring it out. Although, the Mavs and Luka, this is their first time here, but you still got Kyrie that's done it before. But the Timberwolves are still all figuring it out on the go, and we're seeing a little bit of that here. I think they have enough, to win at home, and get force a game 6. Well, because it's 3-1 at this point, and force, 3-2, and the Mavs win 4-2. That's how I see this ending. But yeah, I see the Wolves having enough because they do have that dog in them. They have that fight. I don't think they'll roll over necessarily. It's just that I don't think they have the more reliable pieces at this point.
Ben, how do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, the Lively part does make it a little interesting, because we saw a full game of no Lively, and although Cat hitting threes really doesn't play into Lively not being there, because Cat just had been MIA. He did start hitting some pretty big threes in the second half. But Lively not being there for the Mavs, I think, does hurt them a bit, right? Because although Kleber is back, I know there's a lot of Mavs fans that aren't the biggest Kleber fans. So him being back might not be the best thing. I do know that, Luka likes playing with him or whatever it may be. But for them, the Lively thing really is kind of like the joker in all of this. And it's weird because he's a rookie for the Mavs, right? Not really the biggest scoring threat, but it's all the other things that the way he makes the defense play. Gafford has been playing out of his mind. Even this past game, really big blocks down the stretch. But they've been alternating games, and, I do think that they need Lively. They didn't deem it a concussion, so he didn't have to get in protocol or anything like that. But, with missing a game, I know they're up 3-0, so you probably want to be pretty precautionary. It was a pretty bad knee.
I don't know how that's not a concussion, man. They call those concussions when NFL players have helmets on and get hit like that. That's crazy.
I saw the official diagnosis, or at least what I saw, was neck sprain or something like that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, they do that so he doesn't have to go into protocol, because, dude, we see NFL players enter protocol and they miss a week worth of shit. They might miss the game that week. So that means if he goes into protocol, he's probably playing every other day. He's probably out for the rest of the series. So you go and you call it a neck sprain. Shout out that medical staff. That's a veteran job. But anybody with eyes can see that was a concussion, just a whiplash off of it, whatever you want to call it. I mean, he got hit hard as fuck on his head.
Dude, that was so bad.
But I mean, it did switch it up a bit. The Timberwolves bigs had some success. I think going back home, they got to win one game at home. I mean, I know I say that, but the Nuggets beat them three games at home, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, they all won on the road.
Yeah.
So I do see them winning one game at home, forcing at least a game 6, and then hopefully we'll come back to talk about game 6. When that happens early next week or whatever it may be. I think it might be Sunday, so we won't be on for that. But I really do hope that they stretch that series out, make them boys work.
I just want it to be a wrap in 5, boys, because me, it's anybody but the Celtics, and I would much rather have a fresher Mavs than a Mavs who have been, had to go to 6, had to go to 7.
Yeah,
I really want them to wrap it up here.
All the games have been competitive, though, even though it's, we find ourselves at the 3-1. It's just, again, it's just the lack of experience for the Timberwolves down the stretch. And, to what Ben was saying about Lively, like, he's a guy. He's like a rim protector. He's a rim runner on offense. Super effective with the coming off the roll on the pick and roll for the alley oops, and a good rim defender just like Gafford. So if you have one of those guys, I was thinking about this the other day. Like they're a little bit more developed than like the DeAndre Jordans, that archetype of the world, right? But they still kind of like serve the same purpose, or protecting the rim on defense, or uber athletic that can block a lot of shots, make you rethink a lot of what you do at the rim. And then that pick and roll, and when they run the rim, it's almost unstoppable if you can't get up there and stop that oop. So it's just an effective archetype to have, and if you have two of them on your team that are effective that you can trade off of, and Lively and Gafford, super effective. And we've seen teams win championships with that archetype, kind of at center. You don't need that, dominant ball scorer.
And when they're young, they can switch. So like these are guys that can switch off, onto Ant, onto these other players, and hold their own defensively. So for a rookie, the Mavs did hit it out of the park with him. Obviously, the midseason trade for PJ Washington, who keeps hitting timely shots for them, man, also. So seems like they're going to win. Shout out Nico in the comments, also saying Luka going to finish it next game. So he is siding with you, Justin. Hopefully we get more basketball before the finals, because there is going to be a break. I know they are scheduled to start at a certain time.
June 7th, I think, is the start date.
Yeah, so they kind of stick to that. If it ends today, we have about a week without basketball, and that would suck, to be honest. We know how that, week.
I mean, we got baseball, bro. I mean, it's not the worst.
No, it does.
Yeah, give me a little bit more basketball before the finals. Give me at least a game 6. Make me think that the Wolves can make history here and come back from 3-0. But I just don't think they got enough, though.
Nah,
we'll see.
I'm real surprised how they responded after beating the Nuggets. I thought that we would see them more level and ready to play against the Mavs.
I mean, they were defending champs. They were. They just haven't finished. They just don't.
That's what I mean, though. Like to close it out after you've closed out the Nuggets. I mean, I just thought in my head. And going to the East, now we've seen the Celtics dominant in the playoffs. We saw them dominate the regular season. Now, am I using that word a little too strongly, boys? Or were they playing banged up teams?
Yeah, and I don't think they dominated either. Definitely we're playing banged up teams. Got it done in, shorter fashions.
4-1, 4-0. I mean, those are dominant series wins.
But just the final scores weren't very dominant. Like we saw them escape some games against the Pacers, games that could have gone either way. They didn't really show their dominance, but they did win. They did outlast them at the end. Shout out Jaylen Brown for getting Eastern Conference Finals MVP. We've had that agenda going for several years now, that Jaylen Brown is the best player on that team. Gonna stick by that for now, but
you have had that agenda.
Yeah, that's a one-man agenda.
It is. But
and you had given up on it, but it seems like now that the award is there, you're kind of back on this train, willing to die on the hill one more time.
It's coming to light. He's hitting those big shots for them. But yeah, both of those guys need a championship. So I'm sure once we find out who their opponent is, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But also Porzingis going back and playing against the Mavs. We know he did a stint there, wasn't the best stint. Kyrie did a stint in Boston, wasn't the best stint. There's a lot of backstory, a lot of drama,
a lot of narratives.
A lot of narratives. This could be a really narrative-driven, NBA Finals. Could be back and forth, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be a good series, and just to answer your original question, Justin, the Celtics they kind of had a cakewalk. They've needed to be woken up each time, at least once a series, each time or in each series, excuse me. But they've won, and they've almost been kind of like just playing down a little bit to their competition at times. But there's so much better than the East. They're almost kind of just waiting at this point, or they were waiting to get to the finals almost. So that kind of worries me in a sense, just because I don't know if they've actually, kicked it up into that gear. It's hard to say that because they have been tested. They've been playing playoff basketball for the past month or so. And, these teams are, nothing to, laugh at, with the Pacers, no disrespect to them. They fought even without Halliburton, and it took game-winning shots for the Celtics to, come out of that series unscathed. But either way, I think it's going to be a good series. Interested to see, who the favorite is.
Bet. All right, boys, is there anything else you all want to talk about tonight before we wrap it up here?
No, hockey's been good. Stars are down 4-2.
Dang.
Looking like it's going to be 2-2 coming back to Dallas.
Okay. Roland, you want to sign us out?
Yeah, man.